Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back yet again to another episode of the Pregame Network Podcast. This is episode 111. I am your host, Dan, joined as always by my bestest pal, Anthony. Say hi, Anthony.
Hello.
And we're back to talk about some more stuff that's been going on in the realm of video games. As I understand it, ladies and gentlemen, this week in particular has been exceedingly inflammatory for Anthony, and we're going to learn about it together because I don't really know much of what he's going to say beyond like the snippets of stuff that he sent me, so this should be fun.
A lot of news and rumors this week.
Yeah, a lot of rumors, like way more than usual.
Yeah.
We have a writing question, which I'm very excited about. I don't know what it is, so Anthony won't let me. But before all that, we'll talk about what we've been playing this week, and then get into the news proper.
Sure.
So, Anthony, how big is your list for the week? Because I have been playing some stuff that's been very off my beaten path. So like my segment for this block this week is going to be bigger than usual. I'm going to cap it off with something that we're both going to have some input in. But beyond that, it's I took a left turn this week, and I think you'll be interested to hear about it. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I'll go first because for me, there's only one standout thing, and then you can take the lead with your stuff afterwards if that makes sense for you.
Yeah, all good.
All right, cool. So for me this week, it's been pretty much my rotation. I have my fighting games. Obviously, we've been playing a lot of Helldivers still, playing a lot of Marvel Rivals. I'm still dicking around in the Arkham games. I've just been jumping between Asylum City and Night, just doing the different challenge maps and just fucking around in the world. I don't want to do a 100% run on any of them. I might do that. I might come back to this.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, the Riddler trophies in particular, obviously, they're brutal.
So let me pause you for a second right there.
Yeah.
When Arkham Knight first came out and I played through it like 2 or 3 times in total so far.
Yeah.
I love the game. You know, you and I talk about that every so often. I was like 2 or 3 Riddler trophies away from the Nightfall Protocol ending, and I like refused to use a guide at the time. And
Yes,
I mean, I
remember
still have it, and I never got the Nightfall Protocol ending. I know what happens, but like I never did it on my own account, so that still kind of haunts me to this day. You know?
There's no time like the present to go back and get those last 2 trophies. But yeah, so I've been doing that. I might go back in the fall and do like a 100% run just because I really do like those games and they're worth going back and doing full runs every so often. It's also really nice that I love the way that City and Asylum have New Game Plus where you can just roll right into it and you keep
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, New Game Plus in general is kind of a slept-on thing, and I do kind of wish that the Arkham games had, you know, constant rollover instead of just doing it once. But I appreciate the fact that it's there, you know. So I've been doing that. There were 2 games this week I went out of my way to try and play. And the second I start talking about them, you will kind of understand why. The first one was Psychonauts 2. I tried to go back and actually get in there and play it. Did you play either of the first or the second Psychonauts?
I played like a handful of minutes of the second one, and I don't have like a good reason why I put it down. I just remember thinking that it just wasn't really for me, which is kind of par for the course, I feel like, for me in particular. But no, beyond that I have not played Psychonauts.
Yeah. I think the reason that a lot of people like to not scapegoat but like kind of blame the disinterest on is like the reason that people don't stick with it is because it's so much like the older games. And I don't know, I remember being a lot more engaged in Psychonauts 1. I think the overall design and structure was a little bit tighter. 2 lost me like very, very quickly. I don't like, I'm gonna try and finish it obviously because it's there, why not? But it's just like, I don't know, there's something about like the pacing was really off and the sound design. Like, it's like, imagine if we go back to the time where Psychonauts 1 came out years ago, and we like put Psychonauts 1 and Psychonauts 2 right next to each other at that time of release. I feel like there's a lot of things that Psychonauts 1 avoided polish wise and quality of life wise that 2 just somehow doesn't avoid. It's almost like they said to themselves they want to go back and make a true sequel to the first one in a way that people would expect, but instead of going back and like having that same mentality and polish and mindset, they just kind of tripped over themselves and stumbled into like the poorer side of the past. I don't know, it's weird. Maybe I need to replay both games back to back to really get it, but for now it really didn't hook me. The other game, and this is one that I did play start to finish, that I played, is DMC Devil May Cry. Yeah, I went back.
I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this, because I feel like I do know in the back of my mind.
Well, it'll come up later. Don't you worry. You'll be like,
Okay.
oh. But so I went back and I played DMC Devil May Cry. This will be the 3rd or 4th time I've played through it in its entirety. I'm pretty sure. I got it when it was new. I forget, there was some deal going on. I know I didn't pay full price for it, but I got it back when it was new at the time. I was a little nicer to it back then than I was the following 3 times that I played it. And I forget what order it was, but like I played it again when the definitive edition for the consoles came out. And then this time I went back and I played the vanilla version of the PC, and it's the first time I've played the PC version of this game. And I don't know, it feels like, looking at it, it just feels like a weaker action game than I used to give it credit, where I'm just like, it's a good action game, but it's a terrible Devil May Cry game, which is true, right? But I feel like maybe it's because I have like the definitive edition in my head when I think of the game now, but like the vanilla version is like, it's like a 7 out of 10, maybe 6.5 out of 10 action game, and then everything else on top of it, like the writing, the dialogue, the story, just kind of sucks. You know, I mean, it doesn't have any real depth to it, but it's not like stupidly easy. Like if you just sit there and mash a button, you're gonna die. But like it's so hard. I want to kind of address it in a vacuum, because that's the way that a lot of people do. But like, it is the worst Devil May Cry game. This includes Devil May Cry 2. Maybe that's a bit harsh. It ties with Devil May Cry 2, maybe. But it's like it's loose in a bad way. Like the fact that they tried to shoehorn Devil May Cry stuff into it without like the full controls being the same. Like there's no lock on, there's no like the inputs are all different. I don't know. It didn't feel good to play in a way that the last couple times I tried it, I was at least willing to concede like it's an okay action game, because like these are the same guys that made Heavenly Sword, you know, and that was a decent action game. And it's just, I don't want to say it sucked, because that's harsh, and it's definitely from the fact that I love Devil May Cry as a series, but I think it kind of sucked. Like I still my overall takeaway on it is that you could still have made this, taken Devil May Cry off of it and made your own mythos with your own characters and different names, and maybe it would be a bit better, because you wouldn't be bastardizing or being held to the standard of Devil May Cry, because there's a lot of things that they obviously ripped from Devil May Cry, specifically 4 for some reason. Like there's a lot of moves from the character Nero in Devil May Cry 4 that he just has for some reason. But there's a lot of things they grafted on that don't work with the design philosophy that they used to have. Like in Devil May Cry, there's this move called a stinger. It's like the staple of the series. Dante slides forward and stabs, and that's how you're supposed to get in there, knock people back, move around a little bit, right? And that's performed by locking on, pushing towards your opponent, and pressing the attack button. Now, in DMC, there's no lock-on button. Just that small thing breaks it, because now you're double tapping in the direction of your opponent and pressing the button, and it all just feels wrong, and it's not as fluid, and it's not as stable. It's just weird. So I played through that start to finish. I don't have any good things to say. So I'll just, you know, before I get to anything later, all I have to say is like it's an okay action game that shouldn't have been Devil May Cry. That's my opinion on that. And Dan, that, as far as I remember, is all I've played this week.
Oh wow! All right. Okay. So as far as I go, I have my staples as per usual. Like you said, we've been playing a lot of Helldivers. I've been pretty consistent in Battlefield. I been kind of like going back and forth with Destiny. Like I know the update itself is really good, but I know I keep on saying it, the fact that I don't really have anybody to play with, and I'm not quite at the point where I want to go looking for a new team to like do a bunch of shit that doesn't really matter anymore. I'm not quite there just yet. Maybe I will be. I don't really know. But I've been slowing down on Destiny a lot more. Honestly, like I think it's still installed on my computer, but I think after a certain point, I'm just going to uninstall it and just move on for good because I just can't keep doing this to myself. Let's see, what else? I reinstalled The Division with the intention of like jumping back in because I was into that for a little bit, like a month or two ago. Haven't really dove back in just yet. I also reinstalled Witchfire. Do you remember me talking about this game like a year ago? Yeah. So they came out with like a big content patch the other day. So I reinstalled it, and the thing with the Witchfire is like it doesn't hold your hand with anything, which is both good and bad. But I have not experienced any of the new stuff they added like over the past whole year, because they put out like 2 or 3 big content updates in that time. But the way in which the game is structured, like it's very mechanic heavy in what you need to find. Like you got to find recipes and then unlock a certain it's called Gnosis, but it's kind of like I hesitate to use the term world tier, but it's like in the same vein, and you need to upgrade that so that you can go to the different locations. But the whole game is like shrouded in secrecy, so it's very difficult to really progress. The sentiment online is like a lot of people are just waiting for the 1.0 release, because at a foundational level, the game is actually really very good. Like a single player, first person shooter, like extraction type of game, but it's like I said, very shrouded in mystery. So I haven't really cracked the case on that just yet. I probably will eventually, but I just reinstalled it just to see what the new update was all about. But then I quickly realized I couldn't access the new content because I just am not that far into it, even though I have like almost 20 hours into the game already. Let's see. Beyond that, I am almost done with an Uncharted 4 playthrough again.
Hey.
I installed that the other day, and I just fucking ripped into it. It is just so good. I love the Uncharted series. I love all 4 of them, including The Lost Legacy, which was like the spin-off game, which was, I would give it like a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Like the rest of the games were solid 8s all the way to 2 of 10, with the exception of the first game, like especially in modern times, going back to that. You know, you and I have spoken about this several times. That game aged like fucking milk. My God.
In my opinion, it played poorly pretty much out of the gate. Like 2 and 3.
I agree.
Like I feel like 2 and 3 were solid games.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of 4, even though the story is kind of for me. The gameplay is phenomenal. Yeah, I didn't know that. 4, I love the gameplay of 4. I think 4 it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Is a phenomenal action adventure shooter. You know, it's the opposite side of the coin of third person shooters, where it's like Gears is a grounded, cover based shooter. There's cover in Uncharted, but you're really moving. You're swinging around, you're going all over the place, and I think they nailed that.
Right. So, and to add on to that, they don't really explain this to you in the game, but there's a lot of nuance in the combat system and the movement system that are intertwined together. Like, you can roll over weapons and ammo and pick them up and reload at the same time, or break away out of cover dynamically and like go grab ammo, or like engage an enemy NPC in hand-to-hand combat. It's really, really slick. Like everything from top to bottom is great. And it's funny that you mentioned that you weren't too keen on the story, because in my time playing it, just in this past week alone, it really is like poetic to me that they decided to have Nathan Drake's final adventure be like the holy grail of pirate treasure hunting, like legends. I've been loving it I think this is like my 3rd overall playthrough. Maybe it's my 4th, because I played through it once when the Legacy of Thieves collection was ported to PC, so this might be my 4th playthrough in total. But I really do love the entire Uncharted franchise, even the first one, because without that game, obviously, we wouldn't have the other 3. 2 and 3 are excellent. I genuinely have difficulty deciding which one I like more, whether it's Among Thieves or Drake's Deception. I think I like 3 a little bit more, but just the one train sequence in Uncharted 2 was just a masterstroke in like
That's
in
one
combat,
everybody remembers from that
platforming,
game.
like storytelling in motion, all that shit. Like, and then you watch a behind the scenes video of how they made it and the tech that went into creating that whole segment. Apparently, like, you don't see the same pattern of foliage 2 times. Like, you don't see the same pattern twice throughout that entire train sequence, even though you could just like dangle from the side for minutes on end, and it's just different every time. But that's really cool. But anyway, so yeah, I've been playing through Uncharted 4, and it really got me thinking about like how Sony handles their properties, because especially after this whole Destiny debacle that we just made it through, and me going back to Uncharted. Do you remember in Uncharted 3, and I'm pretty sure this was in 4 as well, like at least in the vanilla launch, they had a like a co-op horde shooter mode that you can jump in with friends and like just defend yourself against waves of enemies. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we played through it like a decent amount back when it was originally released. I missed that a lot. And it sucks that like they easily could have done that in the Legacy of Thieves collection. It's just a game mode on top of the existing gameplay systems. They could have easily have included it, because you're always with somebody in the main campaign, so it's not like they had to rebuild the system from the ground up to include like another player character. Like, you're always with Sully or you're always with Sam or something. So it's like the extra model and the environments were always built for more than one playable character, kind of, sort of. I wish there was more replayability instead of just the main story, but that doesn't erase the fact that I love the entire Uncharted franchise. So I'm glad I went back and I'm replaying Uncharted 4. I'm almost done with it. I'll probably finish it like tomorrow or the next day.
So you're getting there, Dan. So you're leaning into like the older games, like PlayStation.
I really
4,
am.
PlayStation 3. Now you need to go further back. You need to start talking PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1.
I'll probably do another Jack 2 and 3 playthrough, because I'm pretty sure.
Swine! There's 3 games in that trilogy. Damn you!
I know. I just like 2 and 3 better.
Oh.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the precursor Legacy. It's a masterclass in platforming, but 2 and 3 really resonated more with me in particular, which is why I said what I said. And I think that the Open Goal project finally dropped Jack 3. I think I talked about this like a month or 2 ago. Anyway, so yeah, I'm almost done with Uncharted 4. I re-downloaded and started playing GTA 5 yesterday.
Really?
That was the left turn I was talking about. It was for a couple different reasons. Number one, I remember playing through GTA 5 originally. I really enjoyed it. I liked the fact that they had 3 main protagonists and like the different choice of ending at the very end. You had 4 different choices of how you wanted the story to close out. So, and then I also wanted to jump back in and just kind of like rediscover, why are people so fucking in love with this franchise? Because I haven't touched GTA in years. And I remember you and I actually had this talk on the side the other day. I remember loving GTA 3, and then GTA 4 came out, and then I thought that was a complete fucking masterpiece when it was in its heyday.
Really good.
And I know, you and I are largely aligned on that opinion. So I could have installed GTA 4 on my laptop and went through that, but I wanted to do 5 because GTA 6 is essentially right around the corner at this point, pending another delay, which I don't think is gonna happen at this point. So I wanted to jump back into 5 and see, like, why do people love this so much? Now, Anthony, the first thing that I noticed when I booted up the game and started playing it was that I remember I always had an issue with how Rockstar games in particular, how they control. Do you remember talking about this like a couple years ago with me?
Oh, we talked about this in the frame of just getting fed up with Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
And basically I said, like, or whether I said it or not, that my thing is like the weight and the way that they handle in Red Dead Redemption 2 is just a slow escalation of the trend they've been going to since, I want to say, GTA 4, when they moved to like handling physics differently from like the
I'm not a fan.
what the fuck did they call it? It's like, oh yeah, they have the 2D era, then the 3D era, and we're still technically in the HD era, and that started with Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah, like I don't. It's not that I hate it. It's just that I'm really just not a fan of the way that it feels. And it's it's competent. It's playable. It's not like it's unplayable or anything like that. But just because of all the other games that I play that have like super tight controls and you really have control over everything that you're doing at a moment's notice. I hate the term like Twitch shooter, but I guess you would have to put it into that bucket. And then going into like GTA and then Red Dead 2, the controls, they just feel sluggish. It's like it's hard to control. I feel like the way that you feel when you play Destiny 2, that's how I feel when I play GTA and Red Dead. Like that's the best allegory I can give you for how I feel about
everybody kind of has their own, like, I guess, line when it comes to the artificial weight, because it's really something that's in a lot of games, but to a certain degree, weight can feel good, weight behind your actions, but like at a certain point, like it's like you mentioned you're talking about GTA right now. We talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 because that's the game we bring up whenever we talk about where it's just too fucking much. But other games that we've both played also have this, like Resident Evil 4 Remake, Last of Us. Yeah. Both of those games have it. Me and you differ on where we fall on how that affects those games, but there's just an upper limit, and that's kind of where Rockstar is right now.
I don't understand the design choice behind it because, like, in my opinion, it doesn't really feel great to play. I respect the effort into the world building and, like, just making the game in general, because these games, they are massive, especially Rockstar games. So I know that can't be easy and takes a monumental amount of work and blah, blah, blah. But if it's not like a sublime experience to play moment to moment, like, I'm just not going to stick with it. And that's essentially what happened after I completed the game the first time. But anyway, back to my original point. I wanted to go into GTA 5 just to see, like, what is all this ridiculous hype about? And I played a few missions, and it really just wasn't grabbing me again. And and it's because of that like, still to like this very moment, I just don't understand the hype behind GTA 6. I just don't get it. And another reason why I reinstalled 5 to go back and play it was because I had the intention of logging into GTA Online, because I never really played it. I never really gave it like an actual fair shake. And I just figured, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it's all about. Maybe it'll give me a better understanding of why people are so unbelievably excited for GTA 6. Anthony, I didn't even make it to the online mode. I just had to, my interest really fizzled out. I just couldn't do it. And it's funny that you brought up Red Dead, because I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday, in fact, about GTA 5, and then the conversation naturally spilled over to Red Dead. He brought up that he just got so bored in Red Dead Redemption 2, he just didn't want to play it anymore. And I'm like, thank you. Like, this is the exact reason why I put it down, because nothing was happening. Like, I just didn't feel engaged in the game whatsoever. And that's why I never finished it. I don't even know if I made it halfway through. I just got so bored. And I remember loving Red Dead 1, so I don't really know what happened from 1 to 2. So anyway, I played GTA, and then the last thing that I'll talk about, which is going to transition into the news proper, because I think that this is really worth talking about. I dumped about an hour or so into the Impulse demo. Do you recall what Impulse is?
Yes, I remember you talking about it.
Okay, for anybody out there that's listening that does not know what Impulse is, the guys that made Splitgate 1 and 2, 1047 games, they have been working on Impulse since before Splitgate 2, actually. I only learned about this because I watched an interview with the studio head of 1047. Now, I think they made a huge misstep in the announcement of this game. Like, from the fight, like the starting gun going off, they told everybody that this was essentially a spiritual successor to Titanfall. Anthony, I'm here to tell you that is not the case. That is not true at all. Now, I think the game has a solid foundation. It's actually a decent amount of fun to play. However, it is literally just Splitgate 2 reskinned with everybody being able to wall run and have grappling hooks as movement abilities. Now, during the interview with the studio head, Ian Pollock, something like that. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. He was the guy that had the Make FPS Great Again hat at the Game Awards, or the Summer Games Fest a couple years ago, which I thought was hilarious. I loved it personally because I feel the same way.
A lot of people got bent out of shape.
Yeah, I don't care if I get shit for that. I thought that was great. Yeah. Keeping politics out of it, I enjoy the tongue in cheek. That's all I'm saying.
I get you.
So I am going to go out on a limb and assume that you did not play any of this, nor did you see any gameplay footage.
I have not.
Okay, that's a shame because I wanted to talk to you about it. Because remember I said I didn't want to be bouncing my ideas off of a sheet of Velcro? Essentially, that's I think how this talk is going to go. Anyway, so the gameplay itself, it's good, but the number one thing that stuck out to me, like right off the bat, was like the first thing that you do when you hear Titanfall Successor is you're going to try to wall run, right? Like that's like the big draw, the big gimmick to Titanfall, beyond the Titans obviously, is the fact that there's wall running. You can wall run on pretty much any flat surface to get from point A to point B. In Impulse, you can do that. However, there is a noticeable like quarter-second delay between you jumping up to engage that wall run and your character actually like latching onto the surface and starting the wall run. It's just enough to not be as fluid as it needs to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's strike number one. Strike number two, the way they're handling Titans, I am just not a fan of. Because, like I said in the beginning, their biggest mistake so far was calling this a Titanfall successor. It's really not the case. Yeah. In Impulse, these big mechs on the field are treated as if they are power weapons in Halo. There's only two that spawn like every couple minutes. Yeah. And only one person can pilot them at a time. Not that, in Titanfall more than one people could pilot them, but you have to make sure you're the one that makes it to the mech spawn point when the countdown ends. Once that happens, you can hop in. Controlling the mech is fine. It doesn't have the same sense of weight and immersion that Titanfall did, and that's for a variety of reasons. In my opinion, polish is probably like the number one reason, because you just hold a button and you teleport into the mech. There's no animation, which was one of my biggest disappointments, because like Titanfall did such a great job at world building, just in the ambient sense of everything in the game. Like everything in the game in Titanfall was oozing with style and character, and every aspect like did something to convey a purpose in that game world. That being said, I don't want to throw too much shade at Impulse for this, because it's very early on in development. It's going to launch in early access, and their plan is to like develop the game alongside the community, which can be good and bad. Yes, but that's the plan nonetheless. So based off of like that elevator pitch that I just gave you, the top three problems in my opinion are: number one, the wall running isn't quite right. Number two, there's only the Titans are treated as power weapons. And number three, it's essentially Splitgate reskinned, which I don't think is inherently a bad thing, because I think the game is still fun at a foundational level. But the removal of portals actually helped them, because it took out a whole layer of like mental chess that you really didn't need to have to begin with. So I don't even want to say cautiously optimistic. I'm skeptical. I am skeptical to see where this game goes. Because, as you know, Titanfall, I would say one and two. I really can't decide between the two of them, because they both have their own list of merits and detractors. But Titanfall 1 and 2, like you just bundle them into one title at this point. Titanfall, it's in my top 5 games of all time. I absolutely love Titanfall. It is just a masterclass in... It's a masterclass in several things: gameplay, map design, the dynamics of like how a game is going to be played over the course of one match, because you have like these two different meta games going on between pilot on pilot, Titan on Titan, and then pilot on Titan. And like, I'm sorry, but Respawn had no fucking business being as good as they were, having everything be essentially a 10 out of 10 across the board between every aspect of the game. That is such a far cry from what we're used to today, that and the fact that, okay, I'm just going to stop myself. I'm just going to go on and on about Titanfall. Point being, Impulse has it's got a foundation. There's something there, like without a doubt, there's something there. But they shot themselves in the foot out of the gate by calling themselves a Titanfall successor. The closest thing that this game has to Titanfall is the wall running. That's it. Even the mechs aren't Titanfall mechs. They're just not. There's no rodeoing. You can't take a battery and like give health back to a friendly or your own Titan. It's just not the same. And then after watching the interview with the studio head, like he kept on referring to Impulse as a movement shooter. It felt like he was trying to course correct in the moment. It's Titanfall was a big inspiration for us, but like this is just it's a movement shooter at its core. He's not wrong, but they shouldn't have said that out of the gate at first. Like because of that one line of dialogue, the entire community is associating Impulse with Titanfall, rightfully so, because like there's nothing else even close to the way that Titanfall played aside from Impulse. Like I really can't think of any one thing. Yeah. And then something else that was like a pretty big red fucking flag for me in the interview was that one of his like top shooters ever was Black Ops 3, and then like right there I was like, ugh, like I just instant disgust. That
is kind of grody.
Yeah, that like really threw me. Like I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So that's something that I do take issue with, but I think Impulse can find its own community, but it is no Titanfall successor, man. Mm-hmm. It is just not. And I'll stop talking in circles, but I really wanted to nail that point home because I've been starving for years for something akin to Titanfall in a multiplayer space. I still go back and play the campaign every now and again, and I mean I guess I could like use the North Star client, which I have done like a couple months ago actually, but it's just that was a once in a generation game, so. Yeah, that's my first impressions of Impulse. I wanted to get it out because Titanfall is very near and dear to my heart, and this is the only thing that 1047 is the only company that really took a swing at that type of game, which I have to give them props for. I haven't seen anything in like the first person shooter space that is even trying to do anything of the sort. So
yeah, I think we talked about it last week a little bit, where we basically said like there's a whole lot of games that line themselves up a certain way but don't actually follow through. And I think what you're saying is like I think your main complaint is how it was pitched to you at the end of it,
Well, yeah. So because like you go in with one expectation, and then those three things that I pointed out, my three biggest concerns between the mechs, the wall running, and the overall polish was the third one, I believe. Mm-hmm. It really does the game a disservice because. Right. Yes, you're allowed to have Titanfall as an inspiration. Of course, you're allowed to have that game as an inspiration, but it's so far off what Titanfall was while still having like that wall running movement mechanic that it's borderline disingenuous, in my opinion. So, that's my overall review impressions of Impulse so far. I'm going to keep my eye on this game in the future because they will no doubt add content. And the maps are okay, but the Titanfall 1 maps, like the whole suite of maps in Titanfall 1, fucking unmatched. I'm sorry, like no other game had an entire roster of banger maps out of the gate. No other game. Like including Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, every single map in Titanfall 1 was a masterclass. Like it was a masterclass for like so many different reasons. Like the chief among them is the fact that they were designed perfectly for super fast pilot combat with the wall running and the movement and the grapples and all this shit. And it was also designed perfectly for Titans, and then it was also designed perfectly for pilots versus Titan. Like, how do you do that? How do you pull that off? So anyway, yeah, that's my impressions of Impulse. I think it's got somewhat of a future, but it's not going to be a forever game for me, at least. So I'll leave it at that. Anthony, my friend, hit me with the writing question, because if you don't take me off of this train, I'm not coming off of it.
Okay, so this is the writing question. You may or may not have something to say about this. I'm actually curious to see what kind of response you have.
Okay.
The question this week is, quote, there is a subject I see coming up a lot lately, but there's what we call LARPer. What do you think about it?
In what context?
So, the context here is the literal definition of LARPing is live action role playing. That I'm sure you know. Like pretending to be fictional characters in a hobby space kind of thing.
Yeah, I know
now,
what LARPing is.
The slang is built off of the pretending part of it, and how people use it is now in like kind of an accusatory way where like it's just like, you know, people pretending to like something, or people pretending to play something, or people almost like bandwagoning to a certain degree.
So is this like asking as far as, you know, what do we think about LARPing as far as like to non-gamers, so to speak, like coming into an IP and saying X, Y, and Z and just like shitting all over it just to like sow dissent, or, you know,
if I'm understanding the question correctly, that's pretty much you hitting the nail on the head. Although I would say it also you said like, you know, non-gamers, but it also like there are people who play games that'll just latch on to franchises the same way.
Right, I phrased it poorly, but you know, anybody could be a gamer, but you know, if you are playing, let's just take Battlefield for example, right? If you are an avid Battlefield player and you have pretty much opinions of the game in line with the majority of the community, and then this LARPer comes along who doesn't know anything about Battlefield and just like absolutely loves it the way that it is and blah blah blah, and is becoming like a DICE apologist or what, like, is that what you think he's referring to?
I believe that, to my understanding, and just in seeing how it's been used, like in my travels across the internet, I believe that's the way that it is. So like if you're sitting here enjoying something, a new version of that game or something gets announced, or it's in the news, or there's some controversy, somebody else who has less or no experience with it will come in, call themselves the fan, or say that they always loved it even though they very clearly don't, and they will use that as like that to pretend to be like from a place of authority. If I'm understanding this correctly.
So my opinion is twofold on this. Number one, that could be very, very dangerous, as we've seen over the course of several years with like a ton of different IPs. The first one that comes to mind is honestly Warhammer with the like the woke fiasco that we went through about a year ago.
That's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, so like that would be something that would stick out to me immediately as far as the LARPing context goes. So it could be very dangerous because something like that could pick up traction like way too quickly for its own good. However, I also think that those individuals, those LARPers, so to speak, are incredibly easy to sniff out and call bullshit on and dismiss. Like if you're a fan of a property and somebody comes in with the intention of making it shitty for whatever reason, and it's obvious they don't know what they're talking about, it's so easy for the fans of whatever IP to just say like, you have no idea what you're talking about. What's your hour count on the game? But it's really easy to call bullshit and to even prove that LARPer wrong, essentially. To convince other people of that, that's a different thing. But I think it could be both very dangerous in the terms of trying to destroy an IP, but at the same time, it's incredibly easy to pick up on the fact that this person has no fucking idea what they're talking about and they're just LARPing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I pretty much agree with most of what you said. Like, it's one of those terms I don't really use personally. It's kind of like similar to woke, primarily because I don't think it fully encapsulates the issues it tries to address and the issues that the LARPing, so to speak, causes. That's just my preference. I'm not discouraging or saying other people shouldn't. And it's, even if I took direct issue with it, I couldn't quell it, you know? I am glad to some degree that people in general have found a word to throw out there and get their point across. Because you know me, like the kind of person that we described leading up to this, like it's one that I've tried to describe in the past when I'm talking about fandoms and stuff like that, right? I don't know. It's just I can't stand the kind of person on the topic itself. I can't stand the kind of person that like rushes online to pretend they have a history with something because
I'll never understand the motive behind that. I really won't.
It's twofold. One, it's because a lot of these people don't have anything going on in their lives, or they get very wrapped up in FOMO. And the second thing is there are people out there who understand that companies aren't directly listening, but they have their ear to the ground at an uncomfortable level where, like, if you and enough people say something, regardless of how right or wrong it is, they will listen to you and they will make changes based on that. And that's another part of it.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah, it's the same reason, like, again, going to that fandom point where people, like, worm their way into fandoms. It's because they want authority, and if possible, they want the ear of people above them. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if what they want doesn't make sense, or if they don't want anything, they just want the power. They're going to get in there, they're going to try and mess things up, or at the very least make you miserable for liking the thing you like, because everywhere online that isn't directly involved with this but surrounds it is going to be a hellhole for you. So my opinion on it is that it is an unfortunate, and I don't want to say peaked, but I don't want to say growing either. We've definitely been through the ringer, because, like, online identity stuff has been around for as long as the internet has been, but it's only, I want to say, in the last 12 years or so that it's kind of broken containment and malformed to the way that it is now. It's just, we're kind of reaching acceleration points where it's just like, obviously, Dan, you don't necessarily see this, but, you know, when I'm looking at news feeds, looking for news or looking for updates on things, I'll see conversations of people that, like, just jump in and say, like, oh, you know, well, as a fan of so-and-so years and always having loved this, and, like, again, they have the profile picture of the characters and they're naming themselves after the characters and all that stuff. Like, you'll watch them and you'll see them get something identifiably wrong, but they're just frothing at the mouth about whatever they happen to be arguing about or talking about at the time. So my opinion overall on it is, while I think it's good that people have a way to call it out, I don't know, I can't stand the practice itself, and I don't know how this really stops outside of, like, a kind of decoupling between communities and the companies that create the product that makes the communities happen. It's a tough thing. I don't like it. Is what I would say the most of. I mean, if anyone's ever heard me bitch about fans before, it's basically the same issue.
Yeah, it's a real problem, because any asshole with a smartphone could just go online and post something that could just be completely wrong or incorrect or just morally bankrupt. And there's nothing stopping them from doing that. And it's really on two groups of people. One, it's on the company that's creating the product to sift through all the bullshit. And number two, it's on the actual core fan base that made the IP popular in the first place to say, like, no, this is what we want. This is completely off base. You know, do this, not that. And, like, here's why. So it's really, really tough, because you're never, ever, ever going to get a filter to weed out the bullshit. You're just not. And it comes down to the humans on the other end of the Twitter page or whatever to see something for what it really is. And there's like I said, there's like no solution to that problem, which kind of sucks. But that's just the world that we live in.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it's kind of all the whims of the culture kind of thing, because, like, this does kind of ebb and flow, and I do think we're getting to a situation where once the companies get involved directly with the people that are like this, that's when they, like, you cross a line you can't really backtrack on, short of, like, decoupling entirely, and we see that in a few places. So bottom line, it's no good, it's no fun, it ruins everybody, because, like, you'll have a situation like Mass Effect, for example. If I just pick one random thing out, there was the whole controversy a couple of years ago where they're trying to make the all-female race Asari. Like, they're trying to make them, like, try to make it some kind of they-them nonsense or whatnot, because it's an all-female race. And you'll have, you and me, we fucking love Mass Effect. You know, you spend your time having fun, doing stuff with your friends and family. You don't go online to these forums and argue with these people. Me, I don't go to these fucking forums, despite the fact that I have more time on my hands. I prefer to work on other things and, you know, do stuff. We love Mass Effect. People who love Mass Effect much less than us, or don't love them at all, they don't have a lot going on. They will go on the forums and argue for these causes, and it makes it, like, it makes me and you, like, it makes stuff that's made for me, you, or whoever else worse, because of the fact that we just enjoy it. You should never be in a position where, as a fan, this is another part of it, but we're not going to go too far down it, is, as a fan, you should never have to go online to compete with people who are, I guess, LARPing in this case, you know? So, and that's why it's a big problem, and that's where a lot of it stems from. Like, if it was like the blissful years of 2012 and beforehand, where like you just had people with their fucking blog on Tumblr like gushing every day about how much they're obsessed with something, I don't give a fuck. I care when those people, you know, have much less invested and also are much more vocal and are also getting attention from these companies. So that's like a long-winded, parasitical answer to the LARPing question, because it's attached to my opinion of fandoms, because it's all connected and it's all bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whoever wrote that in, thank you for the question. Keep them coming. Anthony and I, we love the write-ins.
Of course.
But with that out of the way, let's get into our first update, and that looks to be something on the Stop Killing Games front, which is obviously pretty much your show. Obviously, I care about the subject, but
yeah, but you're not keeping up with the ins and outs.
Yeah. So why don't you learn me?
So the European Commission has officially rejected the campaign's request for new legislation. This is obviously flies in the face of all the people that signed the signature. However, this is strictly about potential legislation and binding laws. The commission is still open to working with the game industry on a voluntary, basis. The Stop Killing Games, or now I think they call it Stop Destroying Games. I think they changed the name, or they made it more. I don't remember exactly what's going on there. But they said that like they're not done. They're going to try and kind of piggyback on existing legislation that they're trying to go in with. So like there's something about a Digital Fairness Act that they hope to get some protections built into that. So the activism aspect of it is ongoing. The movement is ongoing, but the initial push that got everybody up in arms, however many months ago, that has fallen flat, so to speak. Not a complete slam the door in your face, but it's not quite the resolution that a lot of people who signed were hoping for, and a lot of people.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty.
Yeah, a lot of people are pointing out that maybe it had something to do with those backroom talks with the Gilmans. Nah, couldn't be. I'm sure no money traded hands there. So that's what's going on with Stop Killing Games. A bit of a short update. Obviously these things they take forever, and when they finally happen, there's very rarely a lot to talk about. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't.
That's a shame.
Yeah, as for our other update, we have a little thing, just because we talked about it when it was coming out, and I try to give a little bit of updates whenever they come, because we don't sit here and we don't riff on the same game month after month, week after week, unless it's something that we're invested into some kind of degree, But Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ubisoft has publicly finally stated that Assassin's Creed Shadows did not resonate with audiences the way that they hoped.
Do you think they are finally acknowledging this now because Resynced is right around the corner and they know it's going to be a hit?
They're basically they're winding down the support for Shadows, which means they're finally able to admit that Shadows didn't hit the way they wanted to, and they're trying to save face before Resync comes out. Yes.
Yeah, sounds about right. Shocking, absolutely nobody that pays attention to the games industry. So there's that.
Still no official sales numbers technically, but if you ask them, they'll keep saying, "Well, Assassin's Creed as a brand overperformed."
The engagement numbers were very, very high.
Yeah, there were many big players. Well, what about the sales? Well, Assassin's Creed as a brand sold a lot, but what about Assassin's Creed Shadows? Well, there were a lot of good players. Okay, we get it. You don't want to tell us.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Fuck Ubisoft. So, that was the whole update, right?
I remember seeing that infographic. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, now to get into the news proper that we have for this week. First thing on the docket is Marathon Season 2. Is there any reason why you included this here? I thought we talked about it last week.
I don't think we did. Did we? I think we talked about it. Hold on. I don't remember us talking about it last week.
Well, okay, so I mean, we can go over it again because it's always fun to kick Marathon while it's down.
Yeah, see, the reason I put that on there is 4 days ago you linked to an article about the free week not quite going the way that it was planned. Yeah.
So the Marathon season 2 launched. I don't remember the date, but it launched right around the time that Sony and Bungie announced that they were ending development for Destiny 2, and the numbers for Marathon they're just as piss poor as they have been. Yeah. Just for posterity, I'm gonna go to Steam database like I have been doing like every week at this point. It's 3:30 on a Saturday as of this recording, and at this very moment there's 10,000 people in game. For contrast, Destiny 2 is sitting at 104,000, and this is over a week after the final update for Destiny. Like, the game is officially as dead as it can be, because the only thing that's going to like really cause Destiny to be a dead game as far as like servers turning off is the player count numbers being just not worth it keeping them on, even though Destiny 1 is still sticking around right now too. But anyway, point being, Marathon is it's just not hitting. It's not hitting the way that Sony wanted, or no, let me rephrase that. It's not hitting the way that Sony was planning on and the way that Bungie needed it to. Yeah. And this is including the free week that they put out because they want to get as many people in the door as humanly possible. And it just seems that nobody's interested. I think it's a big combination between the fact that people are not interested, and at the very moment, the entire Destiny community, as well as probably a large number of the overall core gaming community ourselves, are kind of holding Bungie and Sony with a lot of contempt at the moment, rightfully so. And that's spilling over to the performance of this game. And I've said this plenty of times before. I'm going to continue to say it because I think it's very true. Marathon is not the reason why Destiny died. Destiny died because of absolute piss poor management from the top down, and we finally see the fruits of that labor now. Interestingly enough, there was an article put out, ironically, by Jason Schreier, who we are tremendous fans of, as people who've been listening to us know. This is the part where you chuckle, Anthony. It turns out that when Bungie first signed like the decade-long contract with Activision to develop Destiny, they signed it for like 4 or 5 different Destiny titles, and for an offshoot of a number of Bungie developers to start working on a game called Marathon, like before Destiny 1 even came out. So Marathon has been in the works for a very, very long time. So if you are somebody who's saying that Marathon killed Destiny, I'm sorry, but you're just off base. That is just not the way that it happened. It happened because Bungie is a terrible fucking studio, at least from a managerial standpoint, and they just ran the franchise into the ground. So yeah, Marathon Season 2, it's the same overall numbers. I don't think the needle is going to move at all without essentially a complete overhaul of the game.
The surprising thing to me is, I mean, the two big takeaways when looking at the numbers, at least the ones that we can glean at, and it's pretty much confirmed that the console numbers aren't really moving that needle either, so it's about the same anyway.
We learned weeks ago that like 70+% of the entire Marathon player base were all on Steam.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The numbers that we have on Steam, they're pretty fucking accurate as far as like overall player numbers.
Exactly. And what I'm just gleaning at the numbers myself is I noticed that when the game was just free to play, anyone can come in and play it for a week, didn't even reach the launch cap. Did not even get to that launch cap.
Not interested.
Yeah, and the second the free week was over, there was like no attachment rate. It fell back right to the buy the numbers that Marathon was seeing anyway. So that's not a good look. Not a good look.
Yeah, and like I don't want to keep on bringing it back to Destiny and like whether or not the studio chose one game over the other, but I'm still trying to be as unbiased as possible from where I'm sitting. I know I've been a long-time Destiny fan, and I've got thousands of hours in the game and blah, blah, blah. From where I'm sitting, the bet was not to put all your eggs in the Marathon basket. Like, if you're looking for profitability, then the move was to reinvest in Destiny, because as of right now, like I just mentioned, there's playing Destiny right now at the time of this recording, and there is less than a quarter of that playing Marathon. If you really wanted profitability and to make to make money and have player engagement and all the good shit that all these companies like to yell from the rooftops, you would have reinvested in Destiny. Whether that was another game or just continuing going on the treadmill that Destiny 2 was on, opinions on that whole treadmill withstanding, Destiny still was a profitable game, but for the longest time, the fan base didn't have anything to sink their teeth into, which is exactly why it was declining over month over month. Anyway, so my point being, if Sony really wanted profitability, they would have reinvested in Destiny, not Marathon. You could have had both. You could have, because obviously Marathon is not nearly as popular as I thought it was going to be, and it's still built off the same fucking engine that Destiny is. You're going to have the same bugs that us Destiny fans have been dealing with for a decade. Eventually it's going to happen. I don't think it has happened yet because the team is way bigger than the Destiny team. Also, there isn't enough players to really hammer out whatever bugs are actually lurking in the game. But it just wrong move, man. Wrong move.
And I have to say it one more time.
Yeah.
It is not fair to compare the current Destiny numbers to the Marathon numbers.
It's not fair to compare the current Destiny numbers now. Well, see, this is where you and I will disagree because because of the update. Okay, let's just say, for example, that if the June 9th update wasn't like the tremendous sweeping overhaul and the content additions and blah blah blah. And we had this conversation last week, but I guess we're having it again. The numbers still would have been higher than Marathon. They still would have been.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying you cannot. You're essentially looking at a protest right now. And what happens when the protesters get what they want? They're not going to stay there. They're just there to protest. They're going to disperse. So even if like they said, like at the end of this point in time with Destiny, oh, don't worry, we're tell you what, we love you guys. We're gonna stick with it. Check in next month. We're gonna have a lot more stuff coming down the line. Those numbers would drop within the week. Right now, okay. it's that's all I'm saying. I'm still with you. Where in the long term, Destiny would have been the better bet, but it's not. Right. It's not
It's nice to hear you acknowledge that. Honestly,
no, of course. Destiny. If I was in charge, ignoring the tough call that I would have had to make in my hypothetical last week, if I was in charge, I would, and I saw both Marathon and Destiny sitting there, I saw hey, we're getting good feedback from this update. I know this game is not going to remain at 100,000 players the second we start talking. We're going to keep the game up. Blah blah blah. I would bet my money on Destiny because Marathon did that fucking poorly in my eyes.
Right. So I think this is where our arguments are getting lost in translation here, because I don't think that it would have been north of 100,000 either. I do think that would have been more than double of what Marathon is right now. That's where I think the floor is for me.
No, I get that. I just need to, because you did bring up, you compared the numbers right now. Those numbers don't matter in the comparison. It's cool. I agree. Yeah, that's all. That's all I wanted to say. I just think,
totally understand. I just think in the hypothetical situation, without the June 9th update being the monster that it was, let's say it was just 50% of the content, but all of the balance changes still apply because that's not new content. They're just changing around game code. I still think that the numbers would have been tremendously higher than what the Marathon numbers are now. It's still just a numbers game at the end of the day, but I still think they would have averaged 30,000, which is 3 times the amount that Marathon has, and that's really what Sony's looking for, is player engagement and player numbers. So, anywho. Yeah. At the very least, you and I can agree that Destiny was the right choice and they made the wrong choice. And all the semantics aside, I don't think Sony could afford to have the embarrassment publicly of shutting down Marathon in particular. I think they're going to keep it alive for at the very least 2 years and then see where it is at that point, and then maybe they'll pull the plug.
The only way Marathon closes is if they replace Marathon with something, or if they shut down Bungie.
Right, agree. Totally agree. Yeah, so Marathon, it's in a really bad spot even now, even after a free week. People are just not interested in it. They made this hyper competitive extraction shooter in a market that is already saturated with, honestly, with better options. nothing really in like the first person space. Like you can't in good conscience compare Marathon to like Tarkov, even though they're both first person shooters. They're just wildly different. But the genre itself is still oversaturated with a plethora of different options. Marathon just got to it way too late. They were way too aggressive with the PvP and like the overall challenge of the game. And there just wasn't enough content at launch either. Like, it's a bunch of different things that all add up to the sum being a really bad situation for Bungie and Sony. So that's the Marathon Season 2 recap that went on for way longer than I thought it was going to be honest. So we can move on to the next thing on the docket, which is Capcom, which I know nothing about, obviously.
Yes. So, Capcom.
Yes, Capcom.
Basically, I just want to touch on this because, obviously, I'm a big fan of a lot of Capcom's properties. You've been bringing up a lot since Pragmata and Resident Evil 9. You've been bringing this up quite a bit. And obviously, the company is a standout, I would say, in the industry right now, where they're just consistently putting out games.
Yeah, they've been on a hot streak.
Yeah, I have my gripes with them, obviously, but they've remained mostly uncontroversial. A lot of them do really, really well. So basically, actually, I just got to pull this up. So recently, I touched on it last week where I'm just like, oh, the Capcom president showed up and kind of shoved his foot in his mouth on a couple topics that bothered me quite a bit, especially with like potential censorship and esports. But something that he brought up recently is that the company as a whole is moving away from individual-led development to a team-based development model, and that basically what that means is instead of what's typical in Capcom, where they had a lot of what they called stars, where like you had throughout the years, regardless of how I feel about
like
them, but
one
they're
visionary leading a team as opposed to like a committee making creative decisions.
Exactly, like they had Shinji Mikami, Hideki Kamiya, say what you will about them, but they had KJ Inafune. A lot of, you may not know all the names, but they had a lot of identifiable people, and basically, this is something that's kind of just changing in the industry as a whole, but the idea is, the company is moving in this way because they want to be able to keep the pace up, so to speak. They can keep making these games and the release is consistent going forward, and they acknowledge that there might be a quality or sales drop, but they hope that it's only a transitionary thing where they can get the company onto a new track. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't particularly care for that because overall companies, you need to have like a very, very rock solid culture that is not swayed by external forces and needed to pull that off. And I don't think there's a single AAA or bigger company in the entire industry that has a stable enough foundation to not be swayed by external forces, much less Capcom, who's already kind of dipping their toes into, globalization, overseas trends and all that kind of stuff. So it was just almost like a small little thing, really, that Capcom is about to switch things up. I mentioned last year where I think they're heading towards a particular dark age with the way that they handle, monetization and localization. And it's been a slow change since then, but this could be the tipping point for them if they don't stick the landing, because I'm of the belief that you can keep franchises going without being held to the whims of a single person, right? I believe that. I do think that in turn, you need to have a very strong team and studio culture. Otherwise, you risk damaging the brands, the franchises, everything within, like character stories and whatnot.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah. So... That's all. Just a small little thing.
Oh, okay. No, I thought there was more to that.
No,
okay.
No, there's. I mean, obviously, it's not an overnight thing, but that is where they're going forward.
Okay.
That's what they want to do. And I'll be honest, they did lose a lot of leadership. A lot of people are kind of like poking fun. They're saying that they're throwing this one guy Itsuno under the bus because he's the Dragon's Dogma guy, and Dragon's Dogma. I guess. I mean, I don't know. They're updating it. I thought it was pretty good. Maybe they're just, maybe that shook their faith in it. They expected it to do better than it did. I'm not entirely sure, but the idea is they don't want to be held to the standards of just one man stepping up to the plate and saying, I want to do this. And quite frankly, it kind of like hurt them in the past where you had KJ Inafune, the guy who did the Mega Man designs and whatnot. He basically like had the company by the balls for a little bit because he flat out, there was this whole crazy thing I got to do something on in the future where he he pitched, not even pitched to the company, but pitched to the people, that the potential audience, a sequel called Mega Man Legends 3.
Okay.
And he used that as like a way to say, like, basically, look, I have this project that I'm making, and all these people outside want it, and I've poached a lot of talent throughout the company. If you do not give me what you want, I'm fucking leaving. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't get what he wanted. He left. He left. The sequel went away. The talent went back to what they were doing. A bunch of Mega Man projects got canceled, and everybody... There are people to this day who still say, where's Mega Man Legends 3? When it was a meme project and a power play to begin with. So, like, I don't know if this is like a long-term... Maybe they got burned one too many times internally by situations like that. Who knows? And we'll see where this goes in the future. But it's a tough landing to stick. I don't know if Capcom's able to do that. But they've made plenty of missteps in the past. So this might just be another black eye for them once the current slate of projects is out and done with, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Another wait and see type of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if that was pretty small, I'm gonna hit us with another small thing before we jump into probably the biggest thing on the docket there this week.
Yeah.
So Helldivers 2 got an update. They buffed a lot of different stuff. They changed the way that you can like interact with the galactic war. There's now like a new hub on your ship that it's sort of like a retroactive timeline type of thing where you could see the previous campaigns, the current ones, the major orders, what you got to do. It's a little bit more of an interactive way to interface with the Galactic War campaign. I mean, that one thing in particular is kind of a nothing burger, but the rest of the sandbox updates were actually all really, really good. The chief among them, in my opinion, personally, were the 110 rocket pods. They are now my go-to anti-tank stratagems. They're so good. And for you, my good friend, they doubled the health pool of every single sentry.
Yes,
God help us all. So it was a really good update, and they are going to be adding one of two different FRVs. Those are like the Jeeps that you can drive around. It's either the supply FRV or the flamethrower FRV, which basically has like a cremator attached to the top, which is one of my favorite weapons of taking out bugs because it's just so powerful. The supply FRV is actually, I like better. It's a mobile resupply pod with an automated turret at the top. So you could drive it around and use it as a way to get around the map. You can use it to resupply your team. It's got like 9 different like resupply crates in there, so it's more than the actual supply drop. It gives you the same amount of ammo back, which is really, really nice. The gun, the automated turret on top, that's kind of lackluster in my opinion. That needs a pretty healthy buff in my humble opinion. But I would rather take like the utility of the mobile supply drop as opposed to the automated turret, because it's very, very useful. But this update, in my opinion, speaks to a larger plan for the future, because now they've added another kiosk in the ship. That means that they can do more in that vein. They could have more ship customization. They could add more upgrades to the ship itself, because still there's really no carrot on the stick. If you've already unlocked everything, you're just chasing a arbitrary number. They need to add more stuff, whether it's attachments, camos, different titles. Honestly, the perfect thing for them to do is like have different capes that you can grind for. Like it's just so obvious to me, because you're looking at the cape every time that you play, because it's in third person, and you could see everybody else's cape, and that's like one of the biggest differentiating factors from one Helldiver to another is what cape you're wearing. I'm sure the art department can crank out a bunch of really awesome looking capes, put it behind a certain challenge requirement for whatever in the game, and that's the new grind. Like, I don't understand why something like that isn't in the game already. It always kind of baffled me. But that was the update to Helldivers 2. We can go through the other smaller things if you want, or we could save them for the end. It's up to you.
We can hit the other small stuff. Why not?
Okay, so what's this Nintendo AI leak? I already don't like the sound of that.
It's just a small thing. So there was rumblings a couple days ago about Nintendo apparently Nintendo got hit by a data breach. What's it going to be? Because I always get excited because every now and again, whenever there's a data breach or like a dissemination of a data breach, we get to see awesome things like here's an entire beta build of the second generation of Pokemon featuring never before seen designs in sprite form, or here is the alpha content of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of the Time, and it's in such a complete, package that you're able to go and load it into the base version of Ocarina of Time and play around in it. Or, hey, here's Luigi. He was actually meant to be playable in Mario 64, like cool shit like that. But then you hear like, it's only 879 megabytes. And I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. And then I turn my head away, and then it turns out a lot of this was really just emails. And the crux of the emails is that Nintendo, at one point in the last couple months, tried very heavily to push the use of Claude AI into the developer workflow. Like they were almost doing like the Western company thing, like so how are you implementing AI in your workflow today? And it was met with almost a universal like discomfort and rejection from the staff. Good. Which led to, I think, a bit of a pullback, but it's just because it just shows like just because Nintendo's quiet about it, just because they play it much very safe with their developer direction and their internal industry, they're going to be trying out this new stuff in the same way that the Western companies openly do. They're just they're willing to play it a little bit more quiet. Mm-hmm. So that was the bulk.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, I mean, I always I've said this before. I don't think that it's going to sound like very existential, but I don't think that especially in the realm of like being creative and creativity, that we are necessarily capable of really handling AI in a responsible way without turning everything into slop. I just don't think companies are equipped for that, for lack of a better term.
I mean, my opinion on it is pretty much the same as it was the last time we had this conversation, where I said, like, I do think it's hard to see the sun right now because we're in that transitionary period and things are they're very murky. The faucets are all turned all the way up because everybody wants to make that profit as soon as possible, and we just don't know what it looks like yet because we are in that period where people are discovering it. I do think that as far as creative purposes go, I think we're getting closer and closer to some kind of plateau or bottleneck. I think where AI is really advanced is like behind closed doors for like things that are much more, I don't want to say important because art and human expression is obviously very important, but a lot more consequential in day-to-day life and existence. I think that stuff I feel like special interests and the government are already deep into talks about that kind of stuff. Yeah. But as far as like the creativity stuff, I just feel like everything is kind of like I said, the faucets are turned all the way up because everybody wants to make that profit, but at the same time we're kind of seeing a point where like it's almost like getting jammed up with each other because like everybody's trying to enforce the usage of this, but nobody's using it correctly, and you're ending up with people using it improperly for tasks, which makes the tasks take even longer. And I think that what it's going to slosh back and forth for a while. I've said this before, and at a certain point we're either going to see a new tool set or we're going to see people move on to a more traditional thing. It really there's more of like a danger in like places like, I don't know, like YouTube, like for example, because you have people just abuse the hell out of it to generate entire videos with AI. That's where you're really gonna fucking drown if it's not like moderated to some degree. But I think these are at the end of the day just growing pains of a industrial revolution's not scale but importance. It's not gonna be it's not gonna be quite as extreme as like people arguing for the horse and buggy versus like an automated plow or some shit. And we're not going to see, we might see people burning down data centers at this point. I don't know. People are getting really riled up about this, but I do think at the end of the day, there is a light at the end of the tunnel where we just get better tools. It's just, we're going to be rocking back and forth until things settle, people lose interest, people, paywalls start going up. It's gonna be rocky. It has been rocky to a certain degree, but the whole point is, Nintendo was trying to do it too. Everybody's going to at a certain point. It's just everybody is going to be trying something different until the lines are drawn and the understandable rules are put out there.
Yeah, it's real messy. The last thing on our small news list, I'm actually going to save for the end of the show because it's kind of a part of my slice of life. So we'll put a pin in that. Okay, moving on. The great Xbox reset.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, Xbox is being kind of gutted right now. And do you remember last week when I said... Yeah. Do you remember last week when I said that Asha Sharma is making all these like really good kind of consumer-friendly moves, and I'm still very skeptical, and I'm just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. The other shoe is kind of it's dropping. It's in the air right now. Why don't you take us through this? Because I mean, I know what happened, but you probably did more research into this than I did. So why don't you take this one?
Dan, I'm going to open this segment with a comment from Sandy Peterson.
That's what someone left a comment on one of the videos?
No. I just mean just in the industry. A comment from Sandy Peterson. If you don't know who the guy is, he is a veteran developer in the industry. He's one of those guys that got a start in tabletop RPGs. He authored the original Call of Cthulhu tabletop in '81.
Okay.
He worked on one for Ghostbusters. I think he was like one of 4 people that worked on a Ghostbusters tabletop in '86. And then, like many other people in his realm, he moved on to video games. He worked at Micropose. He worked at id Software. He worked at Ensemble Studios. Classics in simulation, shooters, and strategy. At id, he was responsible for 19 of the levels in the original Doom, one of which was one he designed for his interview with the company. He did more than half of the levels on Doom 2. He did a ton of work on the Ultimate Doom and a fair bit of work on Quake. At Ensemble, he worked on the original Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Age of Empires 3. He was a major part in Age of Empires 2 for its balance and AI work, like some of the stuff behind the curtain. He was a lead designer on the expansion for Age of Empires 1 and 2, and for the expansions, I should say, not expansion. He was with Ensemble until the very end, contributing to Halo Wars and being in charge of the universe building for the Halo MMO that never got made. The recent couple of years, he's been getting more and more vocal, particularly on social media. In particular, there's a tweet from him like every week, every other week, wherever it's available, about the closure of Ensemble Studios, something he makes sure everyone knows was directly caused by Don Matrick, who killed the studio over obtuse sales goals. And between that and talking about Cthulhu, he has a handful of good video game takes, one of which made the rounds this week.
Oh boy.
For context, both this post and the response to it were from November of last year, but it got attention this week, and Peterson responded again saying he stands by it.
Okay.
In response to a post on Twitter, which asked, "How do we save Blizzard?" and that post came with a attached photo of Blizzard employees standing outside, I think, their offices with Pride flags, Pride merch, and holding a Pride version of the logo, Peterson said the following: "We don't need to save Blizzard. We don't need to save Microsoft or id Software or Ensemble Studios or Atari. We don't need to save any game company. If they die, they die. They will be replaced with new, likely superior game companies. Gaming continues." And I think that's a good sentiment. It's one I agree with some slight caveats. My opinion is more or less that it's not up to audiences to support games in their studios beyond patronage of things that appeal to them. And that the only time there should be rallying of any kind is when there are like scummy top-down things that are like messing with the process, like executive overreach or activism-driven stuff like that. I think creators and players should have this understanding of expectations that doesn't restrict creativity and doesn't take advantage of the audience, both back and forth. No extorting of any kind, right?
Yeah, I gotta find what I actually said about this, because what I said, I summed it up pretty well, like by my standards. What channel did you put it in?
Did I put it in? I think I put it in.
Devin Community Outreach, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Because I had like a whole block of text. Oh yeah, here it is. What did I say? The only thing that I vehemently disagree with is the fact that, quote, superior, unquote, gaming studios will take their places. That really remains to be seen, especially since there has barely been anything truly revolutionary / innovative released in the past, 2 fucking decades? Yeah, that's pretty much the only What? Yeah, of course. I was just going off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That was really the only thing that I took issue with. The studios that seemingly like can't make the cut or like can't make any money because their game is not performing or whatever. You know, it's kind of the natural course of things to have those studios die.
Yes.
But the whole like superior gaming studios taking over thing, I mean, we really haven't seen that, in my opinion. Like, we talk about, you know, brain drain and lack of talent in the industry like all the time on this show.
Yeah.
And that is like the main reason why I just don't think that superior game studios will take the place of like legacy ones, because the only thing in recent memory that at least I can really recall without an issue is when Infinity Ward broke off to make Respawn, right? Like they made something that was truly innovative and evolutionary. And I actually said that in like the next block of text that I sent you in that same chat. You know, I agree with most of what he's saying. That's the only thing that I just really do not agree with whatsoever.
What I would say is I don't. If he's not saying it, I'll say it. It wouldn't be in the span of like an overnight thing. I do think it would take a long time, but it would happen just because it would be like a reset of the industry, so to speak.
Which we're kind of going through that right now to an extent.
Yes.
That was hot and cold for me.
I get you. But all that said, let's recap what we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
Xbox reset. So Asha Sharma, she is announced as the new CEO in February of this year, near the end of February, I think February 20th. She officially took the role later that week. In June, she said the next 100 days will be about resetting the business to return to growth. Now, Dan.
Yes.
We're still within that 100-day period, so basically we're going through what she said she was going to do right now, or potentially, because you got to remember that these are all rumors. Now, the rumors we're hearing that's part of this Xbox reset are that there are 4 studios that are directly in the crosshairs, but nobody's really off the table. And these studios are Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, Arkane Lyon, if that's how you pronounce it. Is it Lion or Lyon? It's Lyon, right? Lyon? So. Yes.
They're French, right?
I believe so. And then you have Double Fine, which is Tim Schafer's joint. And, you know, immediately there's tons of outcry like, oh my God, how could Microsoft do this? Xbox is killing the video games industry. Xbox is doing that, blah, 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 blah. So I want to do a brief little rundown on exactly, let's say all these rumors are true, what they're going to be, what we would be seeing gone from this industry, right? Okay, so let me just pull up my notes here, because as you mentioned, I did do my due diligence here. There we go. Compulsion Games, founded in 2009 in Montreal by ex-Arkane developers, started as a work-for-hire kind of thing. They basically started with a focus on contract work until they were able to fund their own Ps, their own franchises. The first being Contrast. Dan, have you ever played Contrast?
It sounds really. I'm thinking of Contra. No.
You more than likely at least saw the cover art for this game at least once. It made the rounds even if you didn't play it. Contrast, yes.
I have to see the art because I don't. Contrast. Yeah, this looks like American McGee.
Yeah, it kind of looks like American McGee, but the whole point is you've seen it before.
Yeah.
Like it was a fairly, I guess, successful for its size. I think it sold over 1 million copies. It was a small little indie title, right? That's 2013. They were best known for We Happy Few. That was in development for a long fucking time. Yes, this was them also. It came out in 2018, and then nothing for 7 years under Microsoft. Under Microsoft, they produced one game. That would be South of Midnight. A game
South of Midnight. That was I know.
See, you can't even remember what the fucking game is at first. Like,
no.
Oh.
I was gonna say it was the game that was like blending 2 different art styles together.
Yes, that's the game that started as one guy's passion project. They hired Sweet Baby Inc. to come in. The consultant from Sweet Baby Inc. came in, said, "I hate gamers, cry more, I'm going to make your game woke."
Right.
They race swapped the main character from white to black. They fired the original voice actress who was black because she didn't sound black enough. Then the game came out. It won one stupid Canadian award. Nobody fucking played it. People call it modest. It didn't sell. That's basically what I'm getting at here. Okay, so that's Compulsion Games, right? It was a small studio that Microsoft picked up. They invested heavily in it, and it got one game which didn't do that well, that nobody wanted, and was controversial. Cool. Next up is Ninja Theory. Now, Ninja Theory started in 2000 as a company called Just Add Monsters, and it changed its name in 2004 to the Ninja Theory we know now. Now, Ninja Theory, I kind of put them into like three eras, so to speak, right? The first era is 2003 to 2000. I'm sorry, not 2000. Is 2000 to 2010. That's where they made games like Kung Fu Chaos, Heavenly Sword, and Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. Heavenly Sword is a cult classic in a lot of people's eyes. They consider it one of the best PlayStation exclusives ever made.
I was right about to say that was like one of the few PlayStation exclusives that I never got my hands on for whatever reason. I remember the game. I remember the key art like very clearly.
Very vividly.
I'd never played it.
It was the talk of the town when the PlayStation 3 needed exclusives, and I think it was. Yeah. I think it earned its reputation. Enslaved: Odyssey to the West was obviously a neat little thing that a lot of people like to talk about. Now, that's their first era. Their second era only has one game, as far as I'm concerned.
Was it Ninja Gaiden?
No, that game you're doing what everybody else. Part of the reason why I hope Ninja Theory goes under, aside from my gripes with them, is like I can finally myself and other people will finally stop fucking mixing up Ninja Theory and Team Ninja, because Ninja Theory will be dead and there will only be Team Ninja.
Right. Okay, yes.
Yes. The only game that Ninja Theory made in what I consider their second era is 2013's DMC Devil May Cry. I already talked about the game a little bit. I'll go a little bit more into the general reception to the game back then. The guy who founded the studio, the guy who owned it at the time, Tamim, what's his last name? I can't even remember his fucking last name.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so they got the contract to do a Devil May Cry game. The guy Tamim, he was constantly like just belittling and ridiculing and shitting on Devil May Cry as a franchise. Like there's this infamous like fucking PowerPoint presentation where they're just like, Dante, he's cool. Dante's got to be cool. And so they put like their new Dante, and it's like with a bunch of scene kids and what was cool at the time with people our age and all that kind of stuff. And they say Dante is this, Dante's not, and then they go to the next slide and they put Devil May Cry 4 Dante with the cowboys from Brokeback Mountain. That's how little respect they had from the outset, and they got a ton of pushback for it. The game changed a little bit, and it's still a polarizing game to this day, right? Now, during this first and second era, there was the rise of Gamergate that was going on at the time. It should be noted that Enslaved: Odyssey to the West and DMC Devil May Cry, those characters showed up in a lot of the the Sarkeesian, her little show, the fucking feminist frequency thing. She used both of those games as examples as how everything is sexist and everything is terrible. And it should be noted that in this third and final era, the only thing that Ninja Theory made was Hellblade 2, and this ugly, disgusting game, Bleeding Edge, which is just it's unappealing to look at. I recommend you Google it while I'm talking. It's ugly to look at. It's
familiar.
Unappealing.
Bleeding Edge, you said?
Bleeding Edge, and I'm pretty sure it's it's not it wasn't profitable. I know that much for sure, but I don't know if it's shut down or if they just ended development.
I remember this. Yeah, they fucking bombed hard.
Yes. So just so we're clear, the only two games that they made for Microsoft was this Bleeding Edge game and one sequel to Hellblade. That was over the course. So over the course of 8 years, I think the total amount is, or 7 years, or maybe even 9 at this point, they made Bleeding Edge and they made Hellblade 2, which I can't even fucking remember. So, moving on, we have Arkane Lyon. Now, this one is probably gonna make people is probably the one that hurts people the most, but we're gonna work our way through it. They are a 1999 company. They've been around for a long time. They're technically under Bethesda and ZeniMax. They're not directly a lot of the stuff I'm gonna end up talking about doesn't apply directly to them because they're not directly owned by Microsoft. It's the parent company within the parent company. They made a couple games. Some of them I actually really like and are well renowned. You have Arx Fatalis, which is a Arx Fatalis, which is a it's niche. I tried playing with Joe and Harrison once, but it didn't really stick with us. But it's an old school immersive sim game. They also made Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, which is a really neat game. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit when I played it. I don't remember if I beat it, but I do remember enjoying it. And then they obviously made Dishonored, which everybody knows Dishonored at this point.
Yeah,
you know?
I could never get through Dishonored for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's fine for what it is. I enjoyed it. I can respect Dishonored 1. I think Dishonored 2 is where some of the problems come on because those same Gamergate people got involved, and it led to Dishonored 2 having the split protagonists where you have Corvo from the original game and the female protagonist Emily, which I don't inherently hate on its face, but I do hate the meddling that led to that happening. From when the Bethesda purchase went through for Microsoft, they made one game, Deathloop. That's really it. That's all they made. They're also allegedly still working on Marvel's Blade. We have no idea if that's ever going to be finished.
That game is still alive.
Apparently, I have no fucking idea how. And then, so that's Arkane Leon. The last company we have is Double Fine. Everybody's favorite fucking quirky company, Double Fine. It's up there with Devolver Digital as a company that's just like you can't be mean to them because they're the quirky indie studio when it's just run by a bunch of fucking burnout millennials and Gen Xers and whatever. So Double Fine. Founded in 2000, Tim Schafer's joint, obviously. Tim Schafer, we'll get more on him later, but he's like an old LucasArts guy. Did a lot of work back in the day. They've done Psychonauts. They did Brutal Legend, which both of us really liked. We both like Brutal Legend.
Oh, yeah, Brutal Legend was great.
Brutal Legend is solid.
The one time I could tolerate Jack Black.
A lot of people like to retroactively shit on Brutal Legend, and it should be noted that the development was a nightmare. There's a famous story with Bobby Kotick where like he came close to canceling it because he was always over budget, he was always not on time, that kind of thing. That's just how it is. One of the game that I didn't really have too much time in, but you definitely did. They did Iron Brigade, formerly Trenched. If you remember that Xbox Live Arcade game.
Yeah, wow, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, they did that. They did a game called Broken Age. There's a bunch of smaller games in between there, and then they ended up doing Psychonauts 2 and Kiln are their latest games, and some other game called Keeper. So, let me give you my final score on these studios, so to speak.
Okay.
Because like I mentioned, there's a lot of griping, a lot of whining, a lot of back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And I have to say, all of these closures, if true, would be a good move. That's my opinion. Because under all of these studios, they had total creative freedom and a massive amount of funding. It's basically the same deal that Bungie got under Sony before they had their major downturn and Sony needed to step in and take greater control over Bungie and the comings and goings and how it runs, right? Fucking Ninja Theory got a brand new headquarters built for them in this deal. Like they were not hurting, you know. The only thing Microsoft expected were good games to add to their Game Pass catalog. The only caveat was that they had, you know, I mentioned this before, Microsoft has all these weird guidelines around diversity and representation and all that other nonsense, which is obviously something bad, and I disagree with, you know, and obviously it shouldn't be pushed onto these companies, but these companies were already kind of invested in those movements to a degree, so it was just it was basically a match made in heaven for them. They get to do whatever the fuck they want, including all the stupid mind rot activist driven design bullshit, but they are doing it now with what is essentially a blank check. So now, after 8 years, what did Microsoft get from this? South of Midnight?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hellblade 2? Like, come on. These guys, they basically did fuck all for 8 years, you know? So, with this potential reset, because people say we'll know by the end of the month, you know, who knows? Knowing our luck, the fact that we're recording earlier, maybe the news breaks on Sunday or some shit, because we're recording a little earlier than usual. But, you know, even if these rumors aren't true, they should be true. These companies should be facing layoffs or shutdowns because they've been running around. Like, gaming, as much as I hate to fucking say this, gaming is a business. You need to make money. You can't just get free money for nearly a decade and produce nothing of value. You need to at least get a slap on the fucking wrist at some point, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess this is just really where we're all heading with this, you know. Hopefully this leads to just a slimmer Xbox Studios and gets rid of more of the bloat and useless studios and positions. You know, I don't want them to follow this up with, you know, hiring a bunch of overseas workers or buying more small companies with the same idea. But all this is basically because this isn't exclusive to them. Embracer's doing similar layoffs or has done similar layoffs. Sony is apparently primed to do similar layoffs and has laid off people already. Obviously, they're doing the whole thing with Bungie. They closed Blue Point not too long ago. Everybody whined and wept about this. But overall, I think the industry is at or reaching the end of its rope with the trajectory it's been forced over for about 10 years. You talked about a lot of this stuff only going on for as long as it didn't mess with the money, and it's been messing with the money for a while at this point. You know, the free rides for people not focused on making the best game possible, those are coming to an end. And it's, you know, regardless of whether, you know, innocent people get the boot while they're trying to root out the problem, or if they ignore the problem and just get hit with more layoffs in the future, this is just where we're headed. Because of, you know, at the end of the day, if you're not making a good game, be it new, an existing franchise, and you're focusing on all this other shit like live service or diversity or, you know, remaking things because you've got no ideas, or all this bullshit, or if it's a corporate driven thing, these studios are going to close and deserve to close. So, do you have any opinions on all this before I really fucking explode?
Of course I do. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop on that one, because like you've been warning me all week that you're not going to be pulling any punches, and
we're about halfway through.
We're an hour and 36 minutes into the episode right now, and like you really haven't exploded yet, so I was kind of surprised. So just piggybacking off of everything that you just said, at the end of the day, gaming, as much as it is an art form, it is also a business. I mean, these companies absolutely need funding to keep going, to create new projects, to pay their employees, you know, X, Y, and Z, go down the list. So over the course of like anywhere from 7 to 10 years, right? How many studios got hit? 4? Because if you're Microsoft, then you're looking at this from like a purely numbers standpoint, which they are going to do, right? They are the business end of things. If 4 development studios only ship like a handful of games within the course of a decade, like what the fuck are you doing? And we'll never really know what goes on behind the scenes. We're not on that side of things. We're just a couple of schmucks on the internet that like to talk about video games because we genuinely love the art form. But I mean, starting from the Xbox One era, like they really didn't have anything that was console selling or, you know, console worthy for pretty much the entire time. Like even take Halo Infinite into it. Yeah, the multiplayer was good, but like as a complete package, it was kind of meh, you know, like the gameplay was fun, sure, but everything else around it was just not where it needed to be. And that's just one example. Like Gears of War is another one. Like Gears 5 really didn't do anything spectacular. It was just kicking the can down the road, in my opinion. I mean, it was fine. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't like evolve anything or innovate, not in the way that I see E-Day doing.
It's there were a few and far between starting at the Expo. They've always been on the lighter side, and a few of the wins that they were willing to take, they would end up just giving up anyway because they saw more profit in that.
So 4 studios over the course of about 8 years, releasing a grand total of 6 games, none of which did anything spectacular. None of them were critical successes. None of them were commercial successes.
Yeah.
None of them did anything to move the needle in any meaningful way whatsoever. I'm sorry, you can't be shocked by layoffs and closures when this is the result of, like, you know, I'm using air quotes here, but their hard work. Like it's not shocking in the slightest. So Well, yeah, it does kind of suck that people lost their jobs, but like, what the fuck were you doing for about a decade?
Yeah, it was just a free ride for a lot of these, and I mentioned, it's like a lot of these companies should shut down. People will fight tooth and nail on a lot of these, especially Double Fine, despite the fact that Double Fine in particular Tim Schafer is notorious for burning other people's money. This includes crowdfunded projects where like.
God.
Like before the Microsoft thing, there was something. It was such a nothing release. I can't even remember exactly what it was. I think Psychonauts 2 was also partially crowdfunded, but there was some game where like it got to the point where he was like releasing videos of himself literally burning fake money. Like,
oh God,
this guy is so full of himself. Meanwhile, he hasn't done anything creatively worth a damn since his days at LucasArts, arguably, with the exception of Brutal Legend and Psychonauts 1, which, what are we, almost 20 years away from those games? Like, come on. Like, Tim Schafer is washed the fuck up, and more importantly, in the aside from his general talent decrease, he's bought in on all this DEI stuff. He has gone on record and stated that he sees people like Anita Sarkeesian, who is credited on a lot of the Double Fine games nowadays, and so are companies like Sweet Baby. And I didn't want to get too much into that because we're just focusing on the merit right now. But like, Sweet Baby Inc. is credited on 2 of the games we talked about. Double Fine has an official statement out for Anita Sarkeesian as a valued consultant. It's like, these people, they're washed up, they're not making anything, and they're teaming up with the people who openly admit that they hate video games and hate you for playing the video games. And and I said, like, these studios should close. It's not limited to these. I think 343 is pretty fucking worthless. If it wasn't attached to Halo, I would say just nuke it entirely, but there needs to be some kind of transition. I'm sorry, they're Halo studios now, so there definitely needs to be a transition of some kind. You just fire everybody and put new people in. You can't close the studio because it's tethered to Halo. I would say I would have said the same for Coalition, but like, they're somehow putting out something that looks amazing with Gears of War E-Day. We'll see how that goes. A lot of these studios deserve to close, and it's not just with these newer studios that Xbox picked up in a decade, to make new IPs, but also people that are behind legacy stuff. People are just washed up or done or brain rotten or like being coerced or manipulated by other people. So I guess what I'm saying is, or what I wanted to say in all this, and to Peterson's point, the reason I opened with this about letting companies and franchises die, I'm going to round this up, and just say flat out that like the entire gaming industry needs to get its head out of its ass because you're making video games. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm your core audience and beyond. I am the guy who will go out and buy a good video game and buy the niche shit that Dane over here, who's also part of your core audience, will never hear about, and I'm sitting here going, from everything that we talked about, I don't want a new Arkham game from the current Rocksteady. I don't want a new BlazBlue or Guilty Gear from current Arc System Works. I don't want a new Darkstalkers from current Capcom. I don't want a new Prince of Persia from Ubisoft. I don't want a new Jak and Daxter from the current Naughty Dog. I don't want a new fucking Soul Calibur from Bandai Namco. I'm worried about the new Mass Effect. I'm worried about the new Dead or Alive. I have no faith in any of the new Halos. I'm losing whatever faith and interest I had in the new Tomb Raiders. World of Warcraft sucks now. Destiny sucked and died. Dragon Age sucked and died. Saints Row sucked and died. Mass Effect is probably not too far behind. It's probably going to suck and die,
Right.
That's just shit that was out or came out or got sequels or have been running for a long time, but there's tons of games or concepts that people wanted for years. Niche games and executions or games that were pie-in-the-sky dreams that had the misfortune of coming out in this time frame and effectively wasted their only shot at existing. Games like Premonition 2, No More Heroes 3, Assassin's Creed in Japan with Shadows, that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game, tons of stuff like that. Legacy franchises like, revolutionary franchises like The Sims are now basically just like money milking for companies like EA and, to push whatever messaging they have out there. Final Fantasy, one of the longest running franchises in the industry, one that, depending on who you ask, has anywhere between 1 and 6 of the best games ever made in it, has lost all relevance. And the reason that is it's in large part of Square Enix bringing their output down to a crawl, establishing shit like an ethics department, and completely fleeing from any mechanical depth or identity that their games had in favor of constant experimenting to chase some fucking modern audience. Final Fantasy's biggest claim to fame right now, that's keeping things afloat, is an MMO that updates its story once every couple of years and spends the rest of its time trickling out new content and living as a Second Life fucking sim for people who are into RPGs while it sands down any uniqueness of its gameplay. You know, you have Silent Hill. It died before all this happened, came back while it's going on, and it's being hoarded out to whoever has a small amount of the lowest common denominator appeal to repeat the same mistakes they did years ago, only now they're chasing the Resident Evil audience because Resident Evil cornered it with remakes that are sanding down the Resident Evil legacy. And there's plenty more to it. There's plenty more out there. But the whole point is, I've seen what these companies and individual developers have said and what they've done and what they're currently capable of, and I have no faith. I've seen what they've done to franchises and stories and characters and core aspects like gameplay, and I've seen the reasons they do it, and I just have no fucking faith. Something needs to change. People need to start losing their jobs en masse, and I'm not going to have any sympathy for it. And go ahead.
Well, it wasn't going to be terribly huge, but I was going to interject with, however, the meme that you sent me like 2 weeks ago or something about like the different types of fans of remakes and whatnot. Like one is like the hypercritical, the guy that picks out every little thing that's wrong with it. The other one is just wants to play something fun and enjoyable. Yes. That's been on my mind quite a lot, especially over the past 2 episodes, because as how do I put this? As insufferable as you can be sometimes, and I say that with all the love in the world, you are right more than you're wrong. And the one meme, it's so accurate as far as the different ends of the spectrum, in like what you really need to make a game from like creative standpoint. That like, you know, some of the shit that you said about Destiny when we first talked about them ending development, like, really kind of bothered me in the moment, like at like a core level, because I fucking love that franchise. Yeah, like I love that franchise. You know, you were never going to sugarcoat anything for me, which is a good thing. I don't want you to think that I don't value that. But like, you need that hypercritical asshole that's going to point at every little thing that's wrong with the game, because the sum of those small things are going to wind up being like this massive anchor that's going to drag down whatever IP or property that you love so much. And it's only going to happen largely without anybody really noticing it. And if people don't notice it, then they can't call it out. So like, all this goes just to say that what we just said about 4 studios releasing like 6 games over the course of the better part of a decade, that's just unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And even if one of them was like a phenomenal game, like a once in a generation console selling title, that's still like not a whole lot, right? It's not enough. Like, the gaming industry is so big now, and so many people, so many different kinds of people play video games, that, you know, to lock down one individual player on a forever game that like Warframe is, or World of Warcraft is, or what people thought Destiny was like, that's a very, very, very big ask for any one person to commit that amount of time into any one video game. That you can't really have it both ways. Like, you can't have everybody included and their opinions are sacred and all this shit, and then have a game that's like revolutionary. It's just not how it works. So with Xbox being gutted, essentially, like, what are they really losing, right? What are they actually losing? What products have they put out that that change the way that people look at and play video games? Zero.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So while there's 2 sides to the coin, like, it sucks that people are losing their jobs, but on the other end of it, if they were doing their jobs well, they wouldn't have to have worried about losing them in the first place. Yeah. So what are we talking about here, dude? Like, what's going on? And like, this has all been coming to a head for a very long time anyway. the bloat in the industry, the brain drain, the talent that's leaving, to whether like exit the industry entirely or like forming their own studio or whatever. The bubble was going to burst one way or the other, and I still don't think that it really popped yet. Every year we get this news about this massive amount of layoffs and everything, but you're laying off people from a studio that put out fucking nothing. And then, like, you're going to cry that you don't have a job now? What did you do? Any other job in the fucking world would have dropped your ass years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's... And then all the outcry online about it's not right, it's morally bankrupt, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't keep on paying people to do absolutely fucking nothing. You just can't do it. It's not sustainable.
That's a big thing. The free rides are coming to an end, basically, one way or the other. Because, again, I said it earlier, you said it before, it's, when this starts fucking with the money, and it has for a long time, heads are going to roll. That's just the way that it is. And
Microsoft and Sony, they're not going to think fucking twice about it.
Yeah, no. It's just and it sucks to say this because, like, ordinarily, you keep going back to it where you're just like, oh, it's a shame people lost their jobs. I have a little less sympathy because I know, like, the kind of people, like, because I know how, like, we got to this point for a reason, and the shame is, like, going back to what, Peterson's, going back to Peterson real quick, because he, like I mentioned before, he likes to talk all the time about, like, oh, they killed Ensemble for crazy sales numbers. Like, that's the kind of tragedy where everybody should rally behind, like, random closures based on the whim of, like, I think he called him, like, an EA hatchet man because that's how he got started. But it's like shit like that. That's a tragedy. A studio getting a blank check for nearly 10 years and, like, failing at their job and then being offered retirement packages or, like, severance packages as the studio closes, that's not a tragedy to me. And it's like, it's the reason I say that it sucks is because how are you going to have good in the industry in a comfortable time frame? You got to get rid of the bad stuff and then keep the good stuff. And I know it's like nearly impossible ask to such a mind rotten fucking industry, which every entertainment industry is. But it's just like everything good in this industry, which does exist. Don't let my rant fucking confuse you. I still have plenty of optimism and can acknowledge that good things do happen, but all the good in this industry has a target on its back. You have standout games like Stellar Blade, Clair Obscur, Pragmata, just as a couple examples, right? And then you have other games that don't necessarily aren't like the best ever, like that there aren't, like, stuff that me or you play, but, like, they don't bend over backwards to cater to the journalists and the crazies and the consultants, stuff like Black Myth and Crimson Desert, right? Yeah. And what do we see with all these games? Constant smear campaigns to crush them, localization practices to water them down, overbearing publishers trying to enforce wayward standards, activists somewhere in the pipeline trying to trip up, claim, or manipulate these things, And it's just like it's like a crab in the bucket kind of thing, is because it's like you'll have these people and these consultants absolutely ruin something you love that, like, has existed for as long as possible. And they'll just ruin it, and then a new thing will come along, and no, it's the new thing that's bad because it doesn't align with what the crazy activists want. Like, I don't get it. Like, people make good things and get rewarded in the sales, but then everybody in the industry turns on them because they're not falling in line, And what I'm trying to say with all of this is, all you people need to do is make video games. That's it. Social causes, political parties, contemporary values, identity fads, none of this shit needs to be injected into where it doesn't belong. And if you aren't willing to do that, then you need to get ready to take a hit, because it's coming sooner or later, and that's how you end up with layoffs and closures, Fucking nobody wants games like Concord or Dustborn or Forspoken or the Veilguard or what's that new game, the Aphelion? I can't even fucking pronounce it. Aphelion? Aphelion, yeah. Or, nobody wants that. Nobody wants Relooted or Drag Her or Tell Me Why or all these other fucking games I can't think of or remember, and nobody wants, you to infect games and franchises that have some level of renown or success in the past, like Overwatch, which basically got smothered in the crib, Fire Emblem, the Arkhamverse, again, Guilty Gear, Yakuza, the Like a Dragon series, Borderlands, all of these brands and more are worse off for all these policies and changes and movements and all this batshit stuff that just doesn't have to do with making a good game. It's all nonsense. At the end of it, the reality is you need to make good games. You don't get that with corporate overreach.
It's amazing how it all comes back to that, right?
Yeah, you don't get there with corporate overreach or activism designs or consultation rackets or pandering to whatever random trophy demographic happens to be in favor that year. You just got to make good games. That's all. And of course...
Amazing how difficult that could be.
But of course, you and me are the assholes for bringing that up. We're the bad people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the worst.
We're the worst people for pointing out the problem, not the problem itself, or the fact that like everything's burning around us, but we're the asshole for pointing out that the remember that one fucking analogy I had about localization all those years ago? The building's on fire. We're pointing at who is burning down the building, but like they take issue with us pointing that out more than the person burning the building down.
Yeah, no, this whole thing. I mean, this was coming one way or the other. Like we just got through saying, like the industry couldn't keep on doing shit like this without there being some form of consequences. And we see failures and closures all the time. This industry, Microsoft specifically, really, has been going like this for basically an entire console generation and then some. And honestly, it's about time there was some form of consequences. Like, you and I have been Xbox fans since basically day one. We both own PlayStations, but we primarily have gamed on Xbox, like historically. And it can't, what do we have to show for being an Xbox fan right now? The shitty state of Halo, like no Gears of War right now. COD lost all of its publishing rights on Xbox a while ago, only to recently get them back. But COD is just a different animal right now. There's nothing of note to really speak of, and everything that Microsoft has been putting out has been like those games that you were listing off, like really artsy, not exactly about gameplay. Very few, if any, type of multiplayer titles. Although I will say Halo Infinite had a really good multiplayer component, but nobody really cares about Halo anymore. We're just kind of past that like multiplayer party era, So as much as I hate to admit it, like I'm more on the compassionate side than you are, but at the same time, like for shitty actors in these gaming studios, I also have no faith. I'm sure there's like actual decent employees that are caught up in this. That's really where my empathy lies. But it was time. Like something had to happen. So maybe with a great reset, we'll start to get something that actually grows in this fucking desolate wasteland that we call gaming. And again, more specifically, Xbox.
Yeah, and I guess one of the biggest tragedies in all this is that like there was a period of time apparently where companies were just handing out blank checks and they all went to the wrong fucking place. Nothing meaningful done. Because I mean, going forward, people are going to be looking for easy scapegoats and all this. They're going to say,
naturally,
in general, but like they're going to be saying stuff like, it's because Xbox bought them. That's why the companies went bad. It's because Microsoft wants to focus on AI. That's why they closed them. It's the post-lockdown boom catching up with the industry. And you and me have talked about plenty of these issues. But I'm not going to pretend for a second that this couldn't have been mitigated or avoided if we were just doing the right thing, creatively speaking. Because there should be no reason why. Like, and I'm not the only one. There's plenty of people who have a lot less nice things to say than me, who are talking about these closures and these layoffs, and it's just like, I don't know, man. It's a problem that goes beyond any one corporate directive or world event or anything like that. There's a deep rot in the industry, and it comes from multiple places, and most of it's avoidable.
I think a big part of it is like the current social culture that we're living in, specifically in America right now.
I mean, to be fair,
I feel like that has a lot to do with it.
America's culture is one of its biggest exports, and everybody just kind of watches and follows America.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like anyone who blames it solely on America, What does that say about,
Oh yeah, no,
the
way
other
off base on that one.
Yeah. It's just like what does that say about fuck, man? I don't like this. Have some kind of influence or meaningful change, or just wait for us to sort our shit out. I guess the only one that's kind of immune from this, and I've told you before about like the soft power that Japan kind of has over certain media, but even they eventually they catch up to America because very close allies. There's a certain thing going on there where obviously they try to appeal to our markets in one way, shape, or form, even though I really wish they wouldn't, because the uniqueness of their markets is what makes them so appealing to people and why they are able to weather these kind of storms. But overall, I mean, I have my own pet peeve. I think the biggest thing for me is always going to be the cultural actors. You brought up like the whole culture thing, but like basically, unless you're blaming it solely on the corporations and the heads at the top, nobody is going to rally behind you, because there are people who like what's going on culturally. They want to see more of your things ruined. They want to be able to claim that things you like are part of their cultural revolution or whatever the fuck they think it is. And I think we need to start getting comfortable getting rid of or ignoring these people, because it's just it's a fucking nightmare, to the point where you have activists working within these companies who actively make everything worse, are hired to positions they just can't handle, and at the same time you have these companies who are either coerced into or willfully hiring other companies to look at whatever the resulting product is, be it through consultation companies or localization companies, and just objectively making them worse. There's multiple filters of shit that these games end up going through. It's so tough. Like, people say like, oh, game development's tough, man. Making that game's tough. I'm sitting here saying it's tough because you have so many like traps and tricks out there waiting to just make your product worse for one way, shape, or form. And it's just, I don't know, something's got to give, and it's either something, you either got to start weaning these people off, which potentially a massive round of layoffs could do if done effectively and appropriately. Otherwise, you're just going to head to something big and catastrophic, because this is not tenable. At a certain point, the money fucking dries up. There's only so many ways to really say it.
Yeah. Basically, moral of the story is it was a long time coming, and it's probably not even close to being done yet either.
Yeah, and you have two options. For me, as somebody who's just invested in the medium, you have two options: make good games that I can support, or go under. I'm not like there are so many franchises I have loved over the years and would eagerly wait for news of a sequel, but it's like, if you're not developing them right anymore, like, you think I'm just gonna like I'm not gonna sit here and go like, you need to be rescued no matter what. I would rather see you go under than continue to ruin things I don't like.
Yeah. God, what a shit show.
Yeah.
Was the PlayStation strategy update rolled into that? I don't think so, right?
No, this is like a smaller thing in relation to this, because like it was Xbox focused for a little bit there, but you gotta understand, like, I can't stress this enough, a lot of what I said applies to the industry as a whole.
Yeah, of course.
It really just like, I think Nintendo might be the only one exempt. They have their own host of issues, but they play it smarter than most, even though they're slowly being infected by a lot of the issues that we've gone over multiple times. It's why their two most promising quote-unquote games on the horizon are remakes and not brand new titles. So take that for what you will. But as far as PlayStation is concerned, their updates, they had like an investor meeting or investor call, what these companies like doing, and it's all but confirmed that they are no longer approaching a PC focused strategy, where it's basically it's all but confirmed at this point that single player games, they're going to remain on the PlayStation. Live service multiplayer games will have a chance of coming to the PC. That's basically where they're at right now. Their new focus right now, what has taken up the PC slot, is AI, your favorite. So they're going to be looking into AI. And
I'm super conflicted on that strategy.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
We talked
I'm super
about
conflicted about that strategy for PlayStation overall, because I do think that it's probably the better route for the industry overall to have these exclusives, but at the same time, I don't have a PS5. I really don't plan on spending the amount of money that Sony wants to acquire one. So I guess I'm just going to be missing out on a bunch of titles until they eventually port them over, or I don't even know what else. But for like industry health overall, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, I've said it before.
There needs to be
I'll
more
say it again,
competition.
exactly, competition is key in this. And while I disagree with your takeaway, as I have absolutely no interest in the current slate of PlayStation exclusives, the whole point is they should be aiming for that. You want people like me or you to be saying, "Ooh, it looks so fucking good, but I don't have the console." Because guess what? That leads to you eventually buying the console. There should be cutthroat competition, in making these games as good as possible and keeping as many of them exclusive, because that's how you end up with a healthy industry. May not be the most consumer friendly. I know people are very comfortable with everything just going to the PC and then a deep sale going, or you being able to pirate it. I get that. I'm not saying, "Ooh, you pirates, you can't do that." Like, I'm not that. I'm just saying, like, for the general health and the machinations that go on behind the scenes, you need companies competing best foot forward with exclusives. That's how it is. It's part of why, like, I almost you and me are kind of like not quite head over heels, but really excited for Gears of War E-Day, right?
Yeah.
It's to the point where, like, I'm almost reminded of when Gears 3 was coming out, and I was just sitting around waiting for any droplet of news. I'm not quite there right now with E-Day, but the whole point is, like, back in the day, I'm like, oh my god, Gears 3, where's Gears 3? And they would show off, like, tech demos for Unreal. Yeah. And I was like, oh, the Meat Cube. Oh my god, look at the engine. Look at how it's running. The other day, they did this, like, lighting indestructible environment thing for Gears E-Day. And it was basically just showing off what Unreal could do, because Unreal had this whole convention, which we might talk about next week, where they were showing it off, and Gears E-Day was like the flagship, where they were showing, look at all the things you can do in this world environment. And I'm just like, oh god, imagine if the industry didn't suck and I was just sitting here, actively watching this. How nice would it be to be back in that mindset?
Imagine.
Where, like, games are so excited that you're invested in these tech demos and these tools beyond what they can do, because you're catching a glimpse at a game that just fucking wows you. That's where we used to be, where, like, people in the audience like me would be so excited for a game, we would sit through, like, these unrelated presentations just to catch a glimpse of what the game was going to be doing. Yeah. And we're not there. Yeah, I miss them too. But yeah, either you know how you have the whole "fuck you, pay me" thing, from whatever movie or show you're referencing. Make good games or die. That's I guess that's the theme of this week.
Oh Jesus. All right. So let's see. We got one more thing, and then we'll do the slice of life.
Week. Just do slice of life. I'm not doing that this week. Right. I'll do it next week.
Fine by me. All right. So this tied into GTA 6. That was one of the smaller things that we were going to mention, but I wanted to save it because we got a pre-order date for GTA 6. It's June 25th. It's 5 days from now at the time of this recording. But there was also a rumor going around. I mean, this has been like a thing for a little while, but I feel more strongly about it now because we're a lot closer to the GTA 6 release date than previously. I think that 2K, or it's Take-Two. No, yeah, Take-Two. Yeah. Take-Two and Rockstar, they're going to try to push for a $100 asking price for the base version of GTA 6. And that's just the rumor, but I'm just waiting for the confirmation to come. Fuck you if that happens. Like, $60 is one thing, even $70, that's kind of been the industry standard for a little while now.
Yeah.
But $100 for the base version of the game when it took you a console generation and a half to come out with, like, I'm sorry, go fuck yourself. There's no way.
Yeah.
I'm not, even if I had the slightest passing interest in GTA 6, which I am interested in it from, like, a spectator standpoint right now. I don't know if it's going to pull me in whatsoever, but at this very moment, if they are asking for $100 for one video game, they can go kick rocks. There's not a chance in hell I'm doing that.
There you
go. That's my slice of life. Nothing like too crazy, but yeah. Like
I don't have anything too crazy on my end. I noticed that there was an uptick in people appreciating Halo a bit more lately, just because of every time there's a showing or something involved with a Halo campaign involved, everybody's just like, why are you doing this? This is wrong, one thing or the other. And it's to the point where I saw a long-winded rant the other day about a particular level in Halo 2 where it's like you're driving through a tunnel and it's all dark, and there's occasionally you glimpse a view of the outside through cracks in the tunnel, right? And they're flipping between the two different modes of the regular Halo 2 and the anniversary Halo 2, and they're just like, they just don't get it with the baked-in lighting because it's supposed to be dark and it's supposed to be awful in this tunnel, and then you stop and you look up to the heavens and see hell. And so people are going like, getting these really abstract ideas about like the visual meaning of the Halos and appreciating them in a way that normally you don't see with these flashy new remakes. So I thought that was kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm glad that people aren't being directly won over by remakes, and I'll have a lot more to say on some remakes next week. But that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, I guess this is the part where we wrap it up.
Yeah.
On that note, if you're still listening, thank you very much. This was episode 111 of the Pregame Network Podcast. We'll be back next week to talk about whatever else goes on in video games. Hopefully, Anthony won't have to lay the hammer down again.
Yeah,
but,
I think we're good for now.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye.
Get out.
Oh, God.